Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to share my clinical experiences with all of you. Cancer is a difficult disease to treat for both Chinese and Western medical doctors. Those who have cancer usually have dramatic changes in the body. We want to normalize the body so the immune system can handle the cancer cells themselves. Rather than to rely on strong medication to kill them. The stronger the medication, the more toxic it is and more damage it will cause for the body, resulting in irreparable damages. Cancer is a condition that can affect any part of the body, even the bones. The stomach, the brain, and the eyes can all be affected. It is considered an extra growth. Technically, it's not an extra growth. It is really our own cells, resulting from damaged DNA repair. And the inability to achieve apoptosis. They cannot die as cells normally do, but instead they become immortal cells. Cancer slowly grows and forms a mass. So, how do we solve this immortality of cancer cells through Western medicine and Chinese medicine? What's interesting about that is, back in school, my teacher told us a joke, which was also a true story. There was an American professor doing research on how to kill cancer cells. He tried various methods but failed. At the end, his assistant found the solution by accident. It started when he and his assistant went on vacation. The assistant accidentally left his ultraviolet light on. When he returned from his vacation, he found all the cells in his lab had died. He was very nervous and called the professor. He confessed that he had killed all the cells accidentally and wanted to resign from his position. The professor then laughed and said, "You finally found a way to kill the cancer cells. All of us in the lab tried so hard to find a way, but to no avail. How did you do it?" Then he confessed that he had left the ultraviolet light on. From there, radiation was discovered as an effective tool to kill cancer cells. More methods were discovered from there. Cancer cells are abnormal cells that can rapidly grow. They are derived from normal cells at first, but mutate into something else that can grow rapidly without dying. Normal cells must grow on top of basement membranes. Normal cells have inhibitory effects whereby if one more cell grows in between two cells, there won't be any more additional growth. However, cancer cells don't have to grow on basement membranes. Also, they can grow in all directions, unlike regular cells that can only grow horizontally. Normal cells won't continue to grow when the capacity is reached, but cancer cells can. Additionally, normal cells will die when they are not on the basement membrane, but cancer cells can travel in the blood vessels or lymph to different parts of the body after they detach from the basement membrane. They will then spread to either nearby or faraway organs. Different stages of cancer, 1, 2, 3, 4 are based on how severe the metastasis is, rather than the size of the cancer. When a cancer cell is stationary and attached to something, its shape is like a column. When it is spreading and traveling in vessels or lymph nodes, it will morph into a spindle shape. This shape helps it maneuver between cells. There is plenty of research today on how to maintain the column shape of a cancer cell and not let it morph into a spindle shape so it won't metastasize. My professor did research on using anthraquinone, an extract from dahuang, to prevent the shape of cancer cells from turning into a spindle shape. With the use of anthraquinone, cancer cells won't turn into a spindle shape, or they morph into the spindle shape very slowly, which then can effectively prevent metastasis. Dahuang is an important herb to treat many toxic heat conditions, and it can stabilize cells. Instead of attacking cancer cells, another goal of cancer treatment is to enhance one's own immune system to prevent metastasis. Metastasis indicates worsening of the condition and is the main cause of death. Why? Metastasis of cancer cells usually leads to the failure of multiple organ functions. One of my patients, as we will discuss in more detail later, had lung cancer, which turned into lymphatic cancer and liver cancer. When he first came to me, he said his MD told him he had 3 months to live. It was a difficult case. According to the WHO, cancer is the second leading cause of death. In 2015, 8.8 million people died from cancer worldwide. So, globally, 1/6 of all deaths are caused by cancer, and 15 to 20% of the deaths are associated with cancer. Statistically, the number may be higher. For example, if a cancer patient dies from a car accident, what is the cause of death? It's categorized as an accident, so, in reality, there may be more cancer patients than we think. Some may have high blood pressure or heart disease, like my friend's father. His cancer was treated, but he passed away in 3 months. Everyone thought he died from the recurrence of cancer, but it was from pneumonia. So, you may wonder, how many cancer patients are there really? What are the causes of cancer according to Western medicine? First, there are behavioral and dietary changes. This concept is the same as in TCM, as pathogenesis can be external or internal. Behavioral changes belong to the 7 emotions in Chinese medicine. Diet is more associated with the changes in the body caused by the 6 evils: cold, damp, heat, etc. The first thing to watch is the weight, or BMI. Many people today don't eat enough vegetables or fruits. Although vegetables and fruits cannot provide much energy, humans cannot digest and absorb nutrients from plants like cows and sheep can. We can only extract minerals and vitamins from plants and fruits. Vitamins and minerals play a vital part in repairing cells. lack of exercise is also a contributing factor to developing cancer. Lots of people in Taiwan sit and work all day for 8 or more hours. Many people have a fat belly because of that. Also, smoking and drinking are also contributing factors. Decreased intake of vegetables is common. For the few days that I am in America, I notice there aren't many vegetable options in American restaurants. There aren't that many options in Chinese restaurants either. Also, I have noticed that not too many people order vegetables. When I look around at other tables, I usually see only one vegetable dish. From a nutritional point of view, daily intake of 5 vegetables and 5 fruits would be most ideal. I am also a nutritionist. As a rough guideline, each day we should take in 3 to 5 portions of vegetables and fruits. For vegetables, 1 portion is about the size of your fist. As for fruits, 100 grams is about 1 portion, and each day we need 3 to 5 different kinds of fruits. Some people may ask if it's fine to take 3 to 5 portions of 1 fruit or vegetable a day. That's not good either. There was a very famous Chinese medicine doctor. He almost always ate yam leaves with every meal. Once there was a restaurant that sold out of the yam leaf, so the doctor became so angry that he refused to eat there again. However, he only ate that 1 vegetable, although that vegetable is good. I feel the insufficient intake of other vegetables played a part in him passing away in his 60s. Selective eating is not good for overall good health. When I was in the military, my friend asked me a question. He asked me my opinion of the best treatment for colon cancer as his brother was currently in stage 4. I told him the fastest way is to eat fresh vegetables and fruits and not processed fiber or nutritional supplements containing fruit or vegetable extracts. The effect of fiber is not enough, and some supplements may have vitamins, but those are synthetic and are bad for you. I told him to tell his brother to eat more vegetables and fruits. He said that ever since his brother was a child, he had never liked to eat them. He won't eat any vegetables and fruits even when forced. I told him to use a blender and drink everything, including the pulp. He said his brother won't do it. Then I said he has no other option but to die. I asked him when will his parents stop spoiling his brother. My friend is a teacher, and he comes from a family of teachers. His brother discovered he had colon cancer at 22. I cannot believe that his family still spoils him and lets him refuse to eat the right foods, even when he is so close to death. His family wants to know if there are any medications or herbs that can help, but I told them his brother will die. So, after 3 weeks, his brother passed away. We need to pay attention to this. Many of my young patients' mothers stress the fact that I always tell them to eat more vegetables. Many times when I order takeout, I would see mothers requesting no vegetables because they say their kids won't eat it. There are many parents who spoil their children like this. As a result, other than cancer, there are so many cases of high blood pressure and stroke in young adults. Do you know the age of the youngest child in Taiwan who suffered a stroke? 8. 8 years old. Many teenagers die from cancer as well. There are a lot of these cases. Why is this? Many grandparents cannot deny their grandchildren's request to eat at McDonald's or KFC. Can you believe it? At 8 years old, that a stroke would happen. Here is a breakdown, a chart to analyze the factors leading to cancer. Poor dietary habits are number 1. Many people don't eat enough vegetables and fruits. Secondarily, they eat the wrong kind. Sheng qi yan shi. Many people translate sheng as uncooked or fresh. However, the correct translation of sheng should be bio, as in living or alive. What really poses life and is not damaging to the body is either raw or fresh. As a nutritionist, I recommend processing vegetables in a way to maintain the most nutrition. That way is called xiaxing. In English, it simply means to cook the vegetables briefly in boiling water. Boil the vegetables you want to eat for about 15 to 30 seconds. What is the purpose of this? Last night I was reading various posts on Facebook. I read a story on how Snow White died, not because of the poison from the apple, but rather from the wax on top of it. Most of the apples have wax. Why? Because it can increase the shelf life and also enhances salability. If you are unsure whether an apple has wax or not, simply pour boiling water on it. If it has wax, you will see a white film on the apple. If you keep pouring the boiling water, you will find that the apple has an uneven surface. There may also be toxins, chemicals, or additives. By boiling the veggies or fruit a bit, it can help you remove the possible toxins, additives, etc. The second function of boiling is to remove possible parasites or bacteria. There may be dirt, spiderwebs, eggs, or whatever else you don't want to ingest. This is a great way to further clean your food deeply and remove unwanted substances. "30% of cancer is caused by cigarette smoking. I want to make a slight correction here. If you have been to Beijing or Taiwan, you will know what I mean. Last time I was in Beijing, it was beautiful because it had just rained. Next to me was a professor who told me that he had stayed at a hotel a week ago and couldn't see anything outside his window from the 21st floor. Both smog and cigarette smoke belong in this category. In Taiwan, Nuclear power has been discontinued in favor of coal burning to generate electricity. Most people blame the government for this pollution, but I feel most of the smog is from China. Infection is next. What kind of infection specifically? Viral infections, such as hepatitis B and C, can slowly change the structure in the body. Even common cold or flu can cause secondary conditions that are difficult to solve. Parasites or other bacteria or viruses that enter the body can cause a host of problems. Next is sexual contact. Cervical cancer can be related to improper sexual contact. Professionally, I studied public health after I got my license as a nutritionist. As a public health specialist, we see patients who suffer from occupational diseases. Most commonly, I saw painters who developed bladder cancer due to the chemicals in the paint. People who clean chimneys, very rarely found in Taiwan, are perhaps more common in the U.S. I only know of one person in Taiwan. They are more likely to develop black lung. Asbestos is common among those who work with asbestos. These types of occupations can contribute to developing cancer. Next are alcohol intake and geography. If you live next to power lines, the chance of developing cancer will definitely increase. There was a case of a patient who lived in a place built with cement slag. The building is also contaminated with radioactive metals. Everyone who lived in that building died within 10 years. Today, everyone has a cell phone. No one wants to live next to a cell tower nowadays. So, cell towers are being taken down in Taiwan, and as a result, cell phone reception is horrible. Geographic locations can contribute greatly. Next, we have environmental pollution and toxic byproducts from factories. Then there is medication. Excessive use of medication is prevalent nowadays. Many people develop irreversible damage when taking too many medications that cannot be metabolized by the body. So, all medications inherently have some toxicity, even Chinese herbs. So it's best not to take medications regularly. Honestly, I like to teach food therapy more nowadays because the more cancer patients I see, the more I feel that food therapy is important, as there are too many complications from the overuse of medications. There is an old Chinese saying that goes like this: superior doctors treat disease before they occur. They do this by correcting the patient's diet and lifestyle. Back when I was in public health, my professor used to tell us that if we did a good job with public health, doctors would be out of business. It's impossible. I feel the main reason is vaccinations. I feel it's very scary that it has led to many deaths. I have a public health degree, and theoretically, I should support vaccinations. But today, vaccination is out of control. Do you remember the H1N1 swine flu incident? Do you remember who was the president in America then? It wasn't that long ago. Obama. Obama approved a vaccine to be used directly on humans without going through the proper R&D safety procedures. Lots of people protested because the vaccine was unstable and the side effects were unknown. So the vaccine was approved by Obama and many suffered, the worst being those in Central and South America. What was the result? Many kids died. Many kids died, and it was covered up. We have to be really careful with vaccines, even with those that are stable, such as polio. Vaccines can be taken orally or injected. Some contain live pathogens, some not. Which is which? It's incorrect to broadly say that not vaccinating is best. I will discuss this more in detail after class. Generally speaking, when one's body is healthy, vaccines may be okay. However, there are still deaths in infants associated with stable vaccines such as polio. Every year, there are a few. This usually happens when vaccines are administered to kids who have a fever or a common cold at the same time. The possible complications from vaccines increase in the kids who are fighting the common cold in these cases. Their bodies were not in the optimal health state to deal with the harm caused by the vaccines. I will not further discuss this topic on camera. WHO may come after me. So, back to our topic. Cancer is the second leading cause of death in the world. In 2015, 8.8 million people died from cancer. Within those statistics, most died from lung cancer. This occurred from smog, more specifically, not from cigarette smoking. Next is liver cancer, especially in the Chinese population. Genetically speaking, Chinese people are more susceptible to liver diseases. The death rate from hepatitis is very high. Today, most people don't eat enough vegetables or fruits. This is the main contributing factor to rectal and colon cancer. Drinking cold beverages and eating cold foods like ice cream slowed down the metabolism and peristalsis, leading to constipation. So there are more patients complaining of polyps in the colon. Why did they form? They form due to constipation. Fecal impaction and incomplete evacuation slowly lead to formation of polyps. Prior to coming to this lecture, I had a patient who came in for diarrhea. She had diarrhea most of her life, so her sister encouraged her to have an exam. Through colonoscopy, they found her colon to be this big. But there's a big tumor this size, almost blocking the entire passage. So she only had a small space for her stool to pass. So she has always had distension, and her MD wants to cut off that entire section of the colon. So, is this something we can treat in TCM? You bet. After I treated her for 3 weeks, she said she was able to have small, formed stools. What does that mean? That means the tumor was slowly shrinking. So I told her to go home and eat more vegetables and fruits. Guess which vegetable is best for colon cancer? This was even mentioned in Huang de Neijing. Does anyone know which vegetables to take to avoid colon problems? Uji Bukong was mentioned in the Neijing to be used to avoid developing colon problems. The answer is chives. It's called jiu cai in Chinese, and jiu also means long, so this indicates long life if you eat it regularly. Jiu also means alcohol. It has the same pronunciation as jiu, meaning long, because alcohol is something that can preserve water for a long period of time. So that's why jiu is used in many words because of the sound. Stomach cancer is next. This is due to improper food intake. Many people like to eat preserved food, canned food, or processed food. I have a question for you. Many people like to eat cheese. Do you know how to differentiate which cheese is okay to eat and which ones are not? The sliced ones? Yes, those are worse. But why? There was a special 30-minute documentary on the Taiwan TV news channel about this. Natural cheeses are usually the ones that come in big blocks from Europe. The sliced ones are processed. With what do they process it to give it the nice thin shape? Phosphate. What can phosphate do? It causes cancer, causes gout, and more. In the documentary, retired dairy farm workers revealed the secrets and side effects of sliced cheese. It's a very severe problem. You really need to check the ingredients of the food you consume. Next, let's discuss breast cancer. This is devastating for women. Hormones have a big part to play in breast cancer. What kind of hormones? Chemicals. What kind of chemicals? Fragrance, for one. Any artificial fragrance, aromatic, or chemicals can lead to breast and uterine cancer if you smell it for a prolonged period of time. Many people don't think much of this. I am very allergic to non-natural perfumes. There are many chemical additives in perfumes, odor-fighting sprays, car scents, etc., that are toxic to the body. All these lead to this. Many like to throw in a dryer sheet or something in the laundry to make the clothes smell good. That's why many kids have skin problems and women have breast cancers. The more natural, the better. Don't use those anymore. Some people ask me why I don't use colognes. No, no, no! How do you differentiate natural fragrances from artificial ones? This is not something I want to discuss here. You can search for the answer on the internet. Surely, someone will have the answer online. The other day, I was chatting with the quality control manager from my herbal supplier. He gave me a small vial of essential oil made from chien-fu. He said this small vial of essential oil required 100 kilos of raw chien-fu. What do you think you are buying when you buy perfumes and colognes over the counter? Have you watched a movie called Perfume? In this movie, it is said that it requires 500 kilos of rose petals to produce only a few cc's of rose essential oil extract. What do you think you're buying at the stores? Please tell me, if it takes 500 kilos of rose petals to produce this small amount, how much should they charge? So, if you can buy a bottle of rose perfume for a few dollars or even 100, do you think it's real? No way. The same is true for herbal suppliers. You cannot expect any good quality herbs to come at a cheap price. There are only a few companies in Taiwan that can do essential oil retrieval from herbs. The correct pronunciation of this word is yan, not I. But the problem with the Chinese language is that the pronunciation of yan, cancer, can easily be confused with yen, which means inflammation. Yan inflammation is caused by fire, leading to redness, inflammation, and pain. But this character, yan, which means cancer, includes the character of rock, which describes the nature of the problem. It also can be irregular in shape. Cancer cells can grow in all directions, unlike normal cells which can grow horizontally only. Let me show you in an illustration. If this is the basement membrane, normal cells grow horizontally like this and have an attachment to the basement membrane. Apoptosis happens when the cell is no longer attached to the basement membrane. Apoptosis. I think the word is Greek. It means the death of cells that occur as a normal and controlled part of an organism's growth. However, cancer cells can grow like this. I will show you tomorrow what it can look like. This patient had oral cancer. You will see what cancer looks like when it's outside of the body. Horrible looking, and really it doesn't look like a rock. Anyway, I'll show you tomorrow when we talk about case studies. Don't eat before you see it. It is really very disgusting. Chong means swelling. Liao means stationary. So cancer is defined in Chinese as a swelling that is stationary. But we know today that it's not true. Metastasis does happen, so it's not stationary as described in the ancient text. Do you know when the earliest recording of cancer in Chinese medical texts was? The Wei Jing dynasty, 220 AD to 580 AD. Even earlier, the word yan was found on the oracle bone inscriptions. TCM doctors only observed this phenomenon but didn't record many treatment options. I had a patient who had lung cancer that metastasized to the lymph, then to the liver. He had stage 4 cancer, according to his MD. He was taking chemotherapy drugs. His MD told him to go home because there was nothing else they could do. When he came, his face was full of acne. His daughter, who came with him, kneeled down in my clinic asking me to help. First, I didn't treat the cancer, but something else. I asked if he had any appetite and whether he could eat or not. He said no. I asked if it's because he had constipation, and he said yes. Then I asked how his sleep was, and he said he couldn't sleep either. Next, I asked him about his thirst level. He said he is thirsty despite drinking water. So I told him I will not treat the cancer yet, but first would restore his quality of life by improving his appetite, bowel movement, and sleep. I also told him that anybody has the chance to recover from any disease if one can normalize the sleep, diet, bowel movements, and water intake. It is impossible to improve if even one of the 4 is abnormal. Many diseases originate from one of these 4 conditions not being optimal. So I told the patient the most important thing to do first is to improve these 4 factors. He first came in May. By September, cancer was no longer present. Not because the patient had died, so you can't find it. He is still alive now. Tomorrow, when you see the case study, you will see what type of basic formulas I prescribed. Even my friend Tina said in disbelief, "What? How can these formulas treat cancer?" I will show you his lab work results and MRI report. Actually, he is not the only one. So I understand why there isn't more information in the ancient texts on any set formulas for cancer. What's more important is to restore the balance in the body and normalize its functions. Therefore, there are already lots of formulas that can treat cancer. For example, Saya Sha Liao Jun Se Tang. Fong Fong Tong Shung San can treat cancer. Bai Hua Ku Jing Tong can also treat cancer. What? Swan Sao Yan Tong can also treat cancer. Don't think cancer is very difficult. I feel it's not that hard. Okay, The Yellow Emperor's Classic is a great book that discussed various diseases and the pathology, but something is missing. In the acupuncture section, either no points or no more than 10 points were discussed. In the section on herbs, nothing. It only discusses etiologies and pathologies. But what about the rest? The rest is up to you. So that's why Huangjun Jing's Shun Han Lun is the first treatment book. That's right. Zhang Junjing based his book on Huang De Na Jing's and Shenyang Bencao Jing. Chungqing is a classical term that is the equivalent of colon cancer today. Xiajia includes uterine fibroid, uterine or ovarian cancer. Jiju means accumulation or stagnation. This is referring to the toxins that are accumulated in the body over the years. Recently in Taiwan, there is a case of a sales rep who died from excessive intake of her own products. It was a multi-level company that sold vitamins. She took 5 different kinds of supplements and died suddenly from fulminant hepatitis. Her liver couldn't stand it. I heard Nutrilite's owner passed away in his early 60s. Many supplements are not healthy. Fresh vegetables and fruits are much better. Cancer is also known as chien-fu. Chien means strange and fu means stagnation. It's called such because it's a condition that forms with no reason. Enlargement of liver and spleen comes next. Others include intestinal tuberculosis or other abnormal cancers. eLotus includes esophageal cancer, cardiac cancer, esophageal spasm, esophageal diverticulum, esophageal neurosis, esophagitis, etc. There are so many upper GI cases in my clinic. Many people come complaining of stomach ulcers, but really what they have is coldness in the stomach and spleen. This coldness causes various GI conditions. Cold makes the stomach unable to digest food. Over a period of time, secondary conditions such as atrophic gastritis or ulceration may occur. Following that, you may see mutation of cells. So don't underestimate the severity of patients who simply come in for a hiccup, nausea, or vomiting. In a Korean drama called Tao of Medicine, the leading actor, who is an excellent doctor, had a famous teacher. That teacher died of this condition: hiccup, nausea, and vomiting. In more recent texts, there are more records of cancer treatments. There is Ge Hong, another famous TCM doctor who I think is an alien. Do you know who invented the smallpox vaccine? When was it? In the 1800s. Who was the first person that discovered that smallpox vaccine can effectively treat tuberculosis? Ge Hong. That's why I think he's an alien. How can he know that back then? Either he was an alien or he was psychic. Ge Hong was a Taoist. According to my knowledge of Taoism, those who practice it can have unbelievable foresight. Chong Jing is another genius. There is another condition called Besset disease. Chong Jing already mentioned this condition in his book, Qinggao Yao Lu. It's called Hu Hoa Chong. Abscesses, nodules, swellings, and masses are often discussed interchangeably in ancient Chinese texts. Why? Because they look similar. Many people ask me about lipomas. What's that in TCM? That's just a phlegm nodule. Tang Yung in TCM. Those that are swollen and hard with roots are considered 血痈. So internal and external treatments were recorded. According to Chu Bing Yuan Ho Lun, General Treatise on Causes and Manifestations of All Diseases in the Sui Dynasty, records of Fan Hua Chong can be found. This disorder is similar to what we know today as skin cancer. Skin cancer predominantly happens in Caucasians. In 1171, in the Song dynasty, the word cancer first appeared. Originally, the Chinese character for cancer had 3 characters, meaning stones stacked on top of one another. Later on, the character changed to what it is today because it was difficult to write. Additionally, it was recorded that there was no definitive cause for cancer. Appearance from the outside is purplish red and slightly swollen. Pain will gradually increase, but the mass will not ulcerate. Where have I seen this? In a breast cancer patient that I had. She refused Western medicine treatment. Her right breast swelled to about the size of my fist. After the new year, I told her that she will start to see pus, which means her immune system is becoming stronger and will start to dispel out the toxins. In the beginning, before pus oozed out, the appearance of her breast was just as it was described here, purplish red with slight swelling. You could see spider-like veins that were purple. Upon palpation, it feels hard, like an acne with deep roots. Then it burst. The process was just as it was recorded in the ancient texts. I was amazed at the knowledge of our ancestors. I didn't include her case study for this lecture because I didn't want to disclose her pictures for privacy reasons. Also, if you really saw the pictures, you may want to vomit because it was very disgusting. When her cancer ulcerated and started to ooze pus, I noticed that the color of the underlying structure was black. Also, the smell was putrid and intolerable. After 3 months of oozing pus, new tissues and flesh were forming and the wound was closing. You could see that the color of the new flesh was pink and the middle piece that had felt hard in the beginning was turning soft, almost disappearing. Chinese medicine can treat cancer effectively. It takes some time. In the Song dynasty, Yang Shi provided detailed description on cancer in his book, 一言在知之夫一风. Descriptions included swelling above the skin but deeply rooted underneath, with multiple clusters of masses that can be deep within, frequently found in the abdomen for men and in the breast or upper body for women. At this time, he had already discovered that cancer can metastasize. People in the Song dynasty were quite poor, and many were suffering from malnutrition. People ate whatever they could get their hands on. Just like in the 1930s, people ate plenty of yam in Taiwan. Most had parasites and big bellies. I remember back when I was in medical school, we had to do dissections. You can find these parasites in the forests. They range from 1 to 2 meters. When you dissect them, you can smell the foulness. The whole class stunk. Parasites smells very bad. I guess most everyone had parasites during that time. Most cancers in men are found in the abdomen and, in women, the breast or upper body. Dr. Yang recorded the characteristics of cancer, including the locations at which it appears most frequently as well as the severity. His description contributed to the understanding of the development of cancer. In the Ming and Qing dynasties, there were even more records of the TCM pathology, differential diagnosis, treatment and prevention of various cancers such as esophageal, stomach, breast, lung, and reproductive organs. Actually, more was done in the Ming dynasty. In the Qing dynasty, Western medicine was introduced to China. So there were many debates and conflicts. More doctors started to focus more on Western anatomy. In the next text, Yilin Gai Kuo, Corrections of Errors Among Physicians, written by Huang Qingyan in 1830, he started to propose that the idea that the TCM, chien-fu, are different than our understanding of organs today. Of course, he must have been influenced by Western medicine because the TCM organs and functions are different than the understanding of Western anatomy. Western medicine relies on objective numbers and findings, whereas TCM relies on subjective complaints and presentations from the patients to make the differential diagnosis. Appearance, pulse, color, and sound are important factors to consider. The first consideration is color. The color presentation of a patient makes a big difference. For example, liver cancer patients should have what color complexion? Yes, greenish, darkish green, just like that painting over there. Sort of like the dark green in the lotus leaf you see there. Dark green. The pulse will also change. The appearance will also change. The patient's voice may change as well. So, from all this information, you can start to synthesize your diagnosis. Then you can form your treatment plan accordingly. The etiology from TCM or Western perspectives are similar. There are 6 pathogenic qi, 7 emotions, internal imbalance, improper diet, chien-fu disharmony, constitutional deficiencies, etc. Disease can form due to internal disharmony or external factors. Improper diet belongs to neither exterior or interior. These imbalances in the body lead to obstruction in the channel and causes GI and blood stagnation. In my lectures, from diabetes to fibroids, most people today, for one reason or another, suffer from this. Obstruction in the channels due to improper GI and blood flow. Because of that, GI and blood stagnates, toxic phlegm accumulates, and the final result is the abnormal growth of masses. This is why much research today shows the importance of moving GI and blood in cancer patients. Huang Hoa saffron from Persia has definite anti-cancerous properties. Some Westerners use this herb alone, and it still has that effect. It can improve the GI and blood circulation. I feel that many Western medicine cancer treatments make the body's GI and blood stagnation more severe. I am not sure if you treat cancer patients, but if you see them and they are under Western medical care, many of them, like the ones that undergo surgery, will appear tired. Why? Because surgery does major damage to the body. Damage to GI, blood, Jing essence, and fluids. Okay, how about those doing chemotherapy and radiation? As you know, they are very toxic to the body as well. I will discuss the evolution of Western cancer treatment today. Why did I include this in the lecture? It's because I want to tell you how scary it is. It has definitive damage to the body. For example, if a patient walks into an MD's clinic with 50% of his or her vitality remaining, after Western treatment, he or she will have 30% left. But with TCM treatment, the patient will improve to 60 to 70% and gradually will be back to normal. Let's continue with the understanding of the pathology of cancer.